Hello traders, and welcome back to another Conquer FX webinar. In this webinar we're going to be talking about the trading blueprint for 2023 and how you can find success in your own trading journey this year. So overall, we haven't uploaded a video in quite some time. I have a goal this year to upload at least 2 videos per week. Obviously, if I'm traveling or different things like that, it may, actually disrupt the amount of videos we're able to upload on any given week. But overall, I will be trying to get up at least a minimum of 1 video per week, but I'm aiming to get 2 up in general. Okay, so what I would like to say is that if you do enjoy our content, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. It literally takes 2 seconds, but it would be a massive help to us to help grow the channel and to continue to educate all of you viewers here today. And I would also appreciate if you could just like this video, comment below your thoughts, and if you do have any video recommendations, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on the comments for them, and I'll make sure to at some point do a video about any topic that you would like us to discuss. So overall, guys, let's get straight into the video. Now, throughout this webinar, you will be given a framework to help your trading business succeed in 2023. What I've decided to do was, I've actually added in a little bit about mindset and the mindset you need to develop in order to succeed in 2023. I've also added in, different things about how a 6-7 figure trader thinks, and how they focus more on their performance over anything, as they know the money itself will do the work for them, which we'll be discussing through this webinar. And then at the very end of this webinar, I'll be giving you a framework to basically conquer each trading day, making sure that you are getting the most out of every trading opportunity in terms of the lessons that are there, but also the data that you can collect in order to improve and create high probability setups, every 6-12 months, and improve your trading on a quarterly basis, or every 6 months to a year, whatever it may be. I've helped over 100 students in their trading journey. I've 8 years of experience in the markets, and at the end of this webinar and for the rest of for the rest of this year, I'll be sharing a lot of insights that I've learned along the way. I'll be sharing a lot of tips, tricks, and everything else that's included in this kind of trading industry to help you guys succeed. So I'm really looking forward to giving back a lot more. The whole reason why we created Conquer FX in the first place was to kind of show people the reality of trading. Unfortunately, the reality of trading isn't that pretty. It takes a certain type of individual to really like this job, if you're doing it correctly. And I believe that it takes a lot more hard work. There's a lot more mental barriers included, or mental battles included, than is usually advertised across these social media platforms. And if you've looked at any of our videos or content, or if you're in the program itself, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about here. Okay, so let's get straight into it. And I wanted to open up this webinar with this quote: "We must concern ourselves absolutely with the things that are under our control, and entrust the things not in our control to the universe." What I want you to focus on here is that we must concern ourselves absolutely with the things that are under our control. That simple sentence just there is extremely impactful for all traders, okay? A lot of the time, on a day-to-day basis, I'll be talking to traders who are struggling with their trading, and it seems they are focusing on everything they can that is completely outside their control, and then completely ignoring everything that they do have control over. Now, the reason for this is, the unfortunate part about trading is the things we can control is usually threatening to our own character. So usually when it comes to taking a loss, it is a lot harder to accept that we are the reason why we took that loss, rather than trying to create some fairy tale story that there's someone hunting your stop on the opposite side of the screen, or that the banks manipulated you, or whatever other bullshit is shared online nowadays. It is a lot easier to say that and blame someone else than having to put a mirror in front of your face and actually accept that you are the problem and nobody else is. Just like it is hard to accept that you are in your current life situation because of you and nobody else. These are hard truths to swallow, but in order to succeed in trading, you must swallow this truth, okay? You must really understand that All of your actions that you've taken on a day-to-day basis are the reason why you're in your current situation. It is the exact same in trading, that all of the actions you've taken is the exact reason why you are struggling to find consistency in your trading. When we start focusing on things we can control, what it does is we start accepting, first of all, we come to pure acceptance that we are the problem. And therefore our focus doesn't shift to all these other outside sources that we once believed or wanted to believe was the problem. What happens now is we have to start looking inwards at ourselves, that we haven't been, really performing and doing the daily actions that a 6-7 figure trader does, but yet we're expecting those results. And this is why this emotional attachment to each trade, is there, because we know deep down this is our problem. But it's a lot easier to blame somebody else than have to look in the mirror and accept that I am the problem. And this is something that we're going to be talking about throughout this webinar as well. Now, just like, this is a very, very common thing when we start talking about goals, but I really do think when we take action towards a plan, we're going to see results. Now, of course, that plan may not be as accurate or whatever else, but as long as we have some sort of structure to follow that is going to ultimately guide us in the direction we want to go, it is a lot harder to go off track. Nobody by accident just got a 6-pack. When we look at some of the greatest things that were ever built, I'm not too sure, who said it exactly, but I only heard recently, I thought it was very good, that skyscrapers weren't built by accident. They're some of the most amazing buildings in the world. They weren't built by accident. There was a plan behind them. And that's exactly my point here. Great things aren't built without extreme planning. And when we look at goals, that's exactly what goals are. A lot of the time people write goals. You may have written goals already for this year. But if you haven't looked back at them already, we're in the 4th day of this year, if you haven't made any sort of reference to them or looked over your plan for this particular week, month, whatever it may be, are you really getting the full effect of those goals, or were you just trying to pretend that you're more productive than you actually are? And this is something that a lot of people don't realize, how much work has to go into this game in order to succeed, how stubborn you need to be in order to actually stick through the tough times, and how much resilience you have to have and desire you have to have in order to really pull yourself out of those tough times. Okay, and that's exactly how goals can help us, because by writing goals, we're pretty much providing a blueprint and a framework for how we're going to get to a certain thing. Okay, so for example, usually people will start off with some sort of broad idea, and this broad idea, this one exactly here, could be to reach consistency in their trading. That is an extremely broad subject, because when you break reaching consistency in your trading down, it breaks it down into all the little actions you take on a day-to-day basis that eventually compound over time. So when we look at this, what we want to do is we want to take a broad idea, and this is actually very similar to how we work with strategy development and everything else, which we'll be discussing in later videos. But when we look at a broader goal, what we want to do is we want to break that goal down, because when we pick any goal, and if the goal is too broad, usually becomes quite overwhelming when we see what it takes to actually reach that goal in the first place. So what we need to do is we need to break it down into months, the actions we need to take on a monthly basis, daily basis, weekly basis, hourly basis, the day-to-day non-negotiables that need to be done in order to reach that longer-term goal. And what happens is when you keep arriving up each day and continue to follow your plan, continue to journal your trades, review the data, collect the data, all of this experience alone is going to compound over time and ultimately going to make you a great trader. And the more broken down the goal is, the more you can focus then on those small daily wins that will compound over time in order to get you where you need to be. So if you haven't written goals yet for 2023, write them down, write the broad idea down, break it down into smaller, more digestible pieces of what needs to be done in order to get there. Break that down into the goals then that you need to achieve on a monthly basis, that by the end of this year you will ultimately reach that longer term, larger goal. Break it down into what needs to be done on a weekly basis each month to reach that monthly goal, and then break it down into days and hours of what needs to be done to reach the weekly goal that will ultimately get us the monthly goal. Where we reach the monthly goal, it will get us the yearly goal. And we break it down into more digestible pieces. The goal no longer feels so overwhelming to reach. What happens now is we go from something where we're wishing this to happen to that we have a fixed plan. And ultimately then we just have to hold ourselves accountable to executing that plan that we've set for ourselves and to follow the blueprint we've built by simply breaking down this broader idea. The next thing I want to discuss is thinking like a trader. At the end of the day, people will say our job is to trade the best setups, our job is to manage risk, our job is to do this and that, whatever it may be. But really, when we look at all of these opinions that everyone has of the role of a trader, it all comes down to performance. And really, your job is to manage your performance. Your performance is focused around things that only you can control. And once again, that brings us back to only focusing on things you can control. That comes down to placing the trigger. That comes down to your structural pillars of what creates a strategy in the first place. So I've talked about this before. If you look here on the screen, we have 7 pillars. And these 7 pillars are made up of everything that makes up a core strategy. Okay, so if we look at this and we imagine that these pillars are the foundation of this structure, which this structure is ultimately the strategy. Okay, so what we have is we have here our entry, our exit, we've trade management, risk management, we've price positioning, we've time, and then we also have market phase. Now that is in no particular order, but what I'm trying to say is, in order for us to manage our performance, we must make sure that each pillar of our strategy has been back tested accordingly and the necessary work has been put into each part of the pillar to make sure that this here, the strategy, is working at its highest potential. So for example, imagine this was your entry and this was your exit, okay? These 2 pillars. A lot of the time people are only going to focus on these 2 pillars. The reason being is because they believe that, okay, well, if I get more of a precise entry, I'll get those sniper entries that everyone talks about, which is a load of bullshit. And the other side of it is people will say that, okay, if I get a strong exit plan, well, then I'll be able to take as much out of the market as possible. When in reality, we have no idea when the market's going to turn around. All we can use is some sort of consistent process to help us gain as much out of the market or gain as much out of each trade as possible. So what happens is people end up taking a lot more focus on these 2 parts of the pillars, and then they wonder why their strategy isn't performing to its highest potential. But what happens is, if you look at any basic structure, if you're only focusing on these 2 structure points here, well, the entire rest of the structure is weak. And that means when it goes through periods of stress, and in this case, drawdown or whatever else, or difficult market conditions, or in this case with the structure, weather conditions, whatever else, if the other 70% of the structure has been neglected, well, ultimately it is going to collapse and fall. And in this case, I'm talking about the strategy. So if you're only focusing on your exit and entry and you're not focusing on everything else you can also control and trying to improve, optimize, journaling, collecting the data that's needed to be done, you are going to find yourself in a very difficult situation where you're going to find it very hard to get out of that toxic cycle that you are probably currently in at the moment. So understanding that good traders manage their performance. They manage their performance because they understand it's the only thing they can control. They can't control when the market's going to go against them. But what they can control is how much risk they decided to put in on that trade, because they're basically accepting that whatever can happen will happen at some stage. And when we go in with a mindset that, right, all my focus is only going to be on things we can't control. The only thing you can do then is turn the mirror back on you and say to yourself, well, this was a loss. Did I follow my criteria correctly? What could I have done better? It's not something where we're actually putting ourselves in a situation where we're almost acting like our own personal punching bag. That's not it. What we're trying to do is we're trying to not blame ourselves, but turn the mirror around so we actually have to look at ourselves and do nothing other than improve or stay within this toxic cycle. And the reality is nobody wants to stay inside the toxic cycle, really. And at some stage you will have to improve. You will have to come to full acceptance that you are in your current situation because of you and you only. And when you start focusing on things you can control, you put yourself in a scenario where you have to constantly improve, because each loss is another way to learn. And when you look at each loss rather as a lesson rather than a failure, it's opening up the possibility to learn and become a better trader overall. The next thing that you need to do in order to succeed in 2023 is start to collect the necessary data. A lot of you will simply use the replay backtesting tool on TradingView. In my opinion, that is not enough. We need to make sure that the live conditions or the backtested conditions are as close to the live conditions as much as possible. When you look at the military, I really like looking at the military for different analogies in trading, because there's so much planning, research, strategies and everything else that come into play within the military that we can take a lot of their daily actions and bring it into trading. And one of those things that we can bring in from the military is how they are constantly practicing, how they are constantly trying to become better to the point where they're doing drills over and over and over again, to the point now where there's almost second nature. There's no more thinking involved. There is only reacting. And it is the same with trading. But the thing is that when we look at the military and we look at their training in general, what happens is they're putting themselves in a situation that it is as close to the real thing or replicating the real thing as much as possible, so that when they go into live conditions, they already feel comfortable in those high stress situations. And this is the same with trading. Unfortunately, the replay tool on TradingView isn't a strong enough indicator. It can help you collect different data, of course. It'll give you a rough idea. But we want to put ourselves in a situation where it's almost like a flight simulator for traders. There's plenty of different backtesting softwares out there. I personally like Forex Tester. This allows you to see the fluctuations of the candles tick by tick. It allows you to see the fluctuations of your P&L. It almost looks like an MT5 platform itself. It makes it very, very real looking, and I think that this is necessary to really grow as a trader. But like I was saying, collecting data is something that you really need to bring into your trading in 2023. We get questions all the time. How do I think using a probability mindset or looking at probabilities in general? Well, you can't just pull the number out of thin air that, this will happen 60% of the time, this will happen 70% of the time. You have to go and find those numbers yourself. That means, going and testing your entry, seeing, how many times it fails, how many times it will, give you a successful trade, how many times, what's the probability of it moving back into drawdown, and then by how much on average will it move back against you. All these questions are relevant to be able to trade at a more confident level, because once again, like I said, we can't, there's certain things in the markets we can't control, but one thing we can control is looking back at the historical data and trying to gather as much information as possible to help us as traders navigate our way through this uncertainty with that little bit more certainty or understanding behind us from a probability point of view. And that's the only way to do that, is to by constantly backtesting, is by collecting data and really looking over your patterns, understanding why your trades work, why they don't, etc., which we'll be discussing now in a moment as well. But even something as simple as, a simple exercise that you can start doing straight away, if you have collected data like this, for example, look at this here, where you're basically collecting, if it was a win, if it was a loss, and if you even have data like this where you have an equity curve. This is very basic stuff now. But what you can do is, a lot of the time people won't really know what information they can extract from a backtested equity curve, but it's actually a great way of really understanding the difference between your live results and your backtested results, because I get people all the time saying, well, when I go to my live results, they're nowhere near as close to my backtested results, or they don't replicate my backtested results at all. Now, obviously, the main reason for this is because now we have something thrown into the equation that was never there before, which is real life money. So now the consequences are real for taking every single trade. So what we must do is, as we begin to start forward testing, as you take a strategy into more live conditions, if you have these backtested results each quarter or every 6 months to a year, in order for you to actually improve, you can do this on a monthly basis as well, but usually now, to be honest, the larger the sample size, the better it's going to be. But if you actually look at your equity curve like this, and then, for example, let's just say the pink is your backtested results, and then the black line here is your live results. If you look at areas where your live results were really, really, exceptionally bad compared to your backtested results, the best thing to do is to look at areas like this, and what we call them is closing the gap. So what you want to do is you want to close this gap on your equity curve as much as possible between your backtested results and your live results. And sometimes this can be a simple thing as improving your mindset. Sometimes it could be that you added subconsciously something into the plan that was never there before, and which is actually having a negative effect. Or maybe you actually went live and you stopped actually adding a certain part into the process that you originally had in your backtested results. Whatever it may be, it doesn't really matter, but it's your job as a trader to become curious and have the courage to go and test these things. So when we're able to close the gap between our backtested results and our live results, and you consistently do this on a quarterly basis, 6 months to a year, whatever it may be, you're going to significantly see that your live results are going to get closer and closer and closer to replicating your backtested results, but only if your backtested results were done very realistically. So, you were only trading at the hours that you'd be at your desk anyway. You were only trading on the days that you were going to be trading anyway. Your backtested results have to replicate the real life situation as much as possible. Now, this is basically an illustration or kind of an image that we created here at ConquerFX a while back. This is what our content looked like. We tried to explain data collection, strategy development, mindset, using different kind of drawings and things like that to break it down, make it more visually appealing to you guys. And this is the one thing that we used to talk about with optimization. Just like your goals, you're going to have a very much broader idea. So you're going to have, for example, in this case, we're going to have the square. We have a broad idea of what we want to work with. And then what we want to do is we want to actually break that idea down. And this can be as simple as coming up with different concepts and ideas that you think will help you in your own trading. It doesn't necessarily have to be right straight away, but if you have an idea of how to manage your trade or whatever it may be, it involves a lot of critical thinking, logical thinking. But when you develop these hypotheses, you can basically work away and then eventually see that, hey, we're starting to move in the right direction here. Things are getting smoother. Our results are improving. You can optimize once again. And then, we have the ball rolling, but this is the whole thing. You want to peel the idea apart until you find that sweet spot. Test, fail, learn, optimize, and repeat. And that is the basics of strategy development. This picture here, okay, you can see down here, you can only change what you can measure. Now, I don't think measure is in the frame here, but this says you can only change what you can measure. If you can't measure it, you can't change it. So when you ask, or send me a message asking, well, what can I test? I don't know where to start. You have to take a broad idea and break it down. Your testing periods are going to be a long, tedious process, and that's because there is no exact blueprint on how to do things. We've two different types of data. We have the visual data where we're collecting screenshots and visually analyzing the patterns, market phases, and trying to spot, common patterns between all of our trades or maybe differences as well. But then we also have data or the hardcore data, which is the numbers, the drawdown levels, your equity curve and, your timing and everything else, the hardcore numbers behind your strategy. Both are essential for you to really optimize your strategy to its full potential. But when you look at, strategy development overall, it really does involve failing, identifying that there is a problem, and then analyzing the problem that caused you to fail. When you've analyzed the problem, you want to create a rule or a solution to fix this problem. Now, this rule could be a complete hypothesis or theory that you believe may potentially work. But the whole idea then is to have the courage to go and test that. And when you keep repeating that process over and over and over again, eventually you are going to find success. You're going to be able to improve your results, or otherwise add in some sort of metric to your trading that will give you more confidence that will ultimately improve those results themselves. The next thing I want to talk about is building a playbook. Okay, the playbook is essential, and a lot of people think of a playbook as just a trading plan. No, a playbook is really a visual document that helps you know exactly what your setup should look like. So you're not just writing a document or a plan with specific rules and criteria, but you're creating a visual PDF that allows you to see exactly what your setup should look like on a day-to-day basis. Because if your setups are really a consistent, repeatable process, there will be, a lot of similarities there. And one thing one of my first mentors got me to do was to basically print off 100 screenshots of what my ideal trading setup would look like. And what I had was then I basically had almost a Bible or a framework, a blueprint for me to follow, that when I was about to place a trade, I could look over my visual playbook, see are the similarities there, see if I'm following the plan and criteria better or correctly. And then I was basically able to build all of this confidence to know my system better than anyone else, because not only have I now trained my eye to do it, but I had the confidence before I pulled the trigger that, hey, this setup has worked, 100 times before, 1,000 times before, whatever way you want to, build your playbook. But once I understood the numbers, I was able to see it visually in front of me. It allowed me to develop the skill of executing with confidence. So this brings me to the subject that I wanted to talk about from the very start. What can you do to improve every single day? Now, some of you may have heard about this before, but I want to break it down into detail about what it includes and how you use the information inside of it. So this framework is basically focusing on completing a daily report card. As a trader, you need to take every trading day as an opportunity to learn. The day you think you know it all, or the day you stop learning and asking simple questions like why, what, and how, is the day where you will see your trading business begin to fall. The best traders in the world, they never stop learning. There is traders in some of the best prop firms. I'm not talking about prop firms like FTMO, etc. That's bullshit. I'm talking about real prop firms with real prop capital, with real investors behind them, where they're paying their bills from actual, the performance of each trader. There's traders in these prop firms where they are at their desk 80 hours to 100 hours per week. They are trading at the top level, some of the best traders in the world, and they're still sitting at their desk trying to digest all of the information in front of them to become better. If you want to be at that level of trading 6 to 7, 8 figures, you need to start incorporating these daily actions and routines into your trading, because this is going to have a compounded effect over time on your success. The thing with the daily report card is that it's there to ask you these difficult questions in order for you to constantly improve. So when we look at the daily report card as a whole, what it is, it's basically an area for us to log information based on our current trading day. Now, I'm going to show you the daily report card, the weekly report card, and the Conquer FX workspace that I have developed. There is a link in the description below, or you can go to the Conquer FX Instagram page where you can simply buy the workspace yourself. But it's basically one place to document and basically use this template over and over again in order to improve in your trading, collect the necessary data you can from each trading day. And one thing I need to share as well is that this is not a trading journal. Your trading journal is separate to this. This is just a simple sheet that you fill out at the end of every single day, where you're basically documenting all of your lessons while they're still fresh at the front of your mind on a day-to-day basis. So these questions are going to include, basically, overall performance ratings. You're going to break it down into hourly sessions or even onto a day basis if you're a longer term trader, a swing trader style. What I learned and improved upon today, changes I need to make today, general overview, what was the best trade of the day, different things like that. But the whole idea of a daily report card is that when you've completed your review, a lot of people will say, oh, you just throw it away and then at the end of the month you analyze it. No, there's an active process that you use on a day-to-day basis, that you pick one goal. So when you've analyzed the problems, especially that you have faced, what you want to do is you want to complete the daily report card. You want to ask yourself, well, what were these problems? What can I improve on? Now, you don't just say, I want to improve on managing my risk, or I want to improve on, not over trading. I want to improve on my entry, whatever it may be. But you need to develop a solution there and then. Come up with a concrete solution that will help you to improve on this one single problem. And this is how you get 1% better every single day, because the goal is that you continue to focus on that one single goal every single trading day until you are executing this one goal, until it is a common habit built into your mental edge. Now, if you do that from now till the end of the year, you are going to be a completely different trader with a completely different P&L, returns, and, definitely, in terms of capital as well. You're obviously going to build your capital over time. You're going to build more experience than anyone, and you're going to build an intuition like nobody else. And this is the thing, a lot of people aren't willing to do this. They will place their trade, it will be a win or a loss, they'll close their fucking laptop and they'll walk away, because they don't understand how much fucking work it takes to really succeed in this game. It is not a game where we simply trade and we walk away. This is not Instagram. You are not trading at the beach. You are not doing whatever else, drinking cocktails, surrounded by women, and, trading away on your laptop thinking you're the top G. No, you are a trader. This is a professional game, so you need to treat it like a professional game, okay? And be a professional. Act like a professional would. Focus on your daily habits and routines. Improve 1% every single day and learn from your mistakes. So overall, guys, I'm going to leave you with that webinar today. I hope you've enjoyed this. And if you stick around for just 2 more minutes, I'm going to show you a quick breakdown of the daily report card, the weekly report card, and the Conquer FX workspace. You can build these yourselves, and or you can just simply purchase our templates if you would like. I'll leave that link in the description below, but it will give you basically a broad idea on what these report cards should look like and what they should include. Okay, so here's just a quick example of the daily report card. As you come in, you simply are just basically duplicating these as much as you need them. So you can come here, you click these three lines, and you can duplicate the daily report card each day. So you're never going to run out of daily report cards, but we have made sure to preload around 12 different daily report cards for you when you purchase it already. When you do buy the daily report card, you get the weekly report card included as well, which we're going to show you now in a matter of minutes. But what we can see here is it's basically just a place to document all of this information. Okay, so we can see here we have daily report card. We insert the date here. At the very end, you come back to this overall performance rating, where you're basically rating yourself from 1 to 10 on your performance based on how well you followed your plan, what you've learned, and how well you performed on any particular day. I like to break down this into 3 different time ranges. Okay, so there's a time range where I can trade during Asia, London and New York. Usually I'm only trading at one of these, either London or New York, or sometimes both, all depending on the day and the opportunities that are there. But I prefer to break down each session time range. If you're a swing trader, you can simply just X out these and, write the date down on the particular day. But I once again grade my performance for that particular time session, which will usually last anywhere from 1 to 3 hours for myself. Was I following a higher time frame trend, the risk involved, and then any other comments that I want to talk about that particular session itself. So I can also open this up here and I can add in right here. I can literally paste in any other details if I want to write up a more detailed review, etc., etc. Okay, and add in other screenshots that I may want to include. Then I'm asking myself a series of questions, but these questions are basically, they're meant to be difficult in a way, but also to open up our mind to what we learned and what problems we faced throughout the day. This will also be in the weekly review. So what I learned and improved upon today. So, what problems did I come into, or what problems did I face, or was there something that I learned throughout the day that I think can improve, that I can, improve my trading, that I can carry through into the next day? Changes I need to make from today. There's every day we can improve. There's always something we can do better at. It doesn't matter if it's a 0.1% difference. We're still shifting the odds more in our favor. So this is something that I'm very, very big on logging in on a particular day. You can do this even in a written journal, but I, have developed this for the members. This is a template that the members are using on a day-to-day basis. It is something you can look into yourself. What was the golden trade setup of the day that you missed or caught? Now, the reason why I ask myself this is because I really do believe in quality over quantity. I believe that we should only be taking the highest probability setups. And in order for you to find your high probability setups, you need to collect a lot of data. But as we're doing these daily report cards, the markets are going to evolve. And as they evolve, I want to evolve with them. So every 6 months to a year, I'm able to come and look at my daily report cards. I'm able to look at what was the golden trade setup, including all the screenshots and everything that may be included here as well. And I can start piecing those ideas together to make sure that I am also building a second playbook, or even a better playbook for my high probability setup. So if every single day I'm analyzing the best move of the day, over time I'm going to build a very large database on what they look like and how I can catch them in the future. Next, I'm going to be adding in any necessary screenshots with notes from today's trades. I can click into here as well. I can add in the screenshots, and then I can write down anything that I think is important there as well. The next thing I want to talk about is the Conquer FX weekly review. This is a weekly review that we've made for the 52 weeks of the year. You come in here and basically it is another template. So before you start your weekly review, you want to make sure that you have journaled all of your trades from this week's trading period with all the detailed notes and breakdowns that are included. And this is, something that a lot of people will neglect, but it's necessary for you to improve on a weekly basis. These are non-negotiables. If you come into my mentorship, these are literally seen as the basics, but they're non-negotiables because they hold such a big impact on your trading. If you can't do a simple thing like this, this is not your industry to be in. You will never improve. You will always stay within that toxic cycle. So in order for you to improve, you need to conduct a daily report card, a weekly report, review, or whatever it may be. You need to journal your trades. You need to collect the necessary data. All of these things are basics, but they're necessary. So in the weekly review, I'll be asking myself what worked well this week, what didn't work well this week. Was there a particular day that you could have done better? I'll break down that particular day. What could I have done better? But the number one thing, once again, is what is the solution moving forward? In this case, what didn't work well, what worked well, and I'll talk about the trade idea here again. So once again, I'll open it up. I can add in whatever I need to add in, and I can add in, screenshots and everything else. Was there a particular day that I could have done better? So I have to look over my daily report cards for the last 5 days, or however many days I traded, And I'm looking, even if I had a profitable week, I want to look at, where can I still improve? Where can I always become better? From there, I'm rating my week, and I will look over, previous weekly report cards then over the weekend. And, is there any, behavioral patterns or chart patterns or insights that have been recurring in my trading over time? If I'm starting to see that maybe I'm exiting my trades a little bit too early, well, that's something that I need to improve on as a main goal moving into the next week. Just like my daily report cards, I have weekly goals as well. These aren't fixed on money or a specific return. They are process driven. So please understand that. Then, once again, I'm asking myself, out of all the daily report cards and of all the reviews I asked myself about the biggest move of the day, out of those 5 days or however many days I was trading, what was the biggest move of the week? And how could I have caught it? So once again, I'm increasing the my knowledge and the data I'm collecting on my high probability setups and what they may look like, or how I can develop a playbook to catch the biggest moves of the week. Next thing I want to share with you is the Conquer FX workspace. So this isn't really the daily report cards as such. This is more of just a workspace where everything's included for your journal and collecting data, and it's really just something to get you started with the data collection process. So, we've everything from tracking your trading goals. So, doing, what you've done, trading plan. You can upload your trading plan here or create your first trading plan here and have it as a place where you can keep it open, on the side of your computer as you're trading. Then we have the trading review section where we have an area to basically collect all the necessary data. Now, this has linked databases, and what this means is that when you log everything into this database here, so all of these things that are included that we want to keep track of, what you can do is you can actually come down, you can click here to separately view your wins, separately view your losses or break-even trades. You can look at your key notes, and then you can actually come down and analyze all the information that you've inputted up here and look at the instruments or pairs separately. So we can see here, this was, Australian dollar, US dollar charts. You can click here to view the chart, but you can look at all your wins from, Aussie dollar. We can look at your losses, your break-evens, and then any key points that you wrote up about this trade or about this particular pair as well. From here, we've created the space where you can add in, a gallery for your winning trades. Even we can track your work ethic on any particular month. So, keeping track of what you're actually getting done on a day-to-day basis will also help you to see, how much work are you actually doing behind the scenes? Are you doing as much as you think you are? Then we have places, for back testing, for your winning, losing trades, view all your losses with all these linked databases again that you can track from up here. You can even go into detail about your entry confirmations if you 2 different styles and you want to compare them. We also have areas where we can look at your patterns, where you can look into different things like head and shoulder patterns, and go into each one of these separately, and even add in other different patterns if you wish, if they are not included. From there, we have a Conquer FX playbook where you can actually track what goal you need to work on any particular week. So this would be week 1, the days included. What do you want to improve on? And then, what will the improvement be for the next week or whatever it may be. And then monthly reviews then as well. So originally when we started, this was in March, but all you need to do, so I'll just show you there. Originally we started this in March, so it's the date new workspace was issued. So all you need to do is just press duplicate here and just type in, January, February, so it's not that hard. But we'll actually do that after this video here myself. So when you do purchase it, it will be included. But as you can see here, March trades taken, winning trades, losing trades, break-even trades. And this will bring everything in from that particular date into this linked database to make sure that, you're actually collecting all the necessary data. Once again, detailed monthly review. What did you do well? What did you do bad? Things I will do for next month. Any other notes? And then we can actually see how much work you did over that month, because as you log stuff into your work ethics section, it's going to pull it into here as well. So the ConquerFX Workspace is exactly that. It's a workspace for traders to make sure they're holding themselves accountable and collecting the necessary data that should be included in your weekly reviews and everything else. So overall, guys, this is the end of this webinar. I'll be looking forward to another webinar later this week with you guys. And if you really enjoyed this video, once again, I would please ask you to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below about any of your video recommendations. If you're interested in joining any of our mentorships, there will be a link below in the description as well. The top 2 links will be for the daily report cards, the weekly report cards bundle, and then the workshop itself, which is separate to them. So overall, guys, take care. I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one.